G'day, ZiggyD here, and welcome back for another Path of Exile guide. In this video, I'm going to be going over one of my favorite things in Path of Exile, trading in a brand new league. This includes the 4-month leagues or longer duration races like 1-month races or 1-week races even apply to this as well. And this is trading sort of within the first few days of a 1-week race, or when it's a 1-month race or longer, trading within that sort of first few days to first week period. Now, if you're watching this video a little bit in the future and it's not, the start of a new league, it's still some interesting information, hopefully, about general trading and also something you can apply next time a new league starts. So, I'm going to be going over how to go about selling in a new league, what to actually sell, and then sort of how to price it. Usually I like to steer away from specific pricing, but I will use some specific pricing examples in this. But just keep in mind, any specific examples I give you will probably change a fair bit over time, and that's just the nature of having such a vibrant barter economy in Path of Exile. So, I've had a pretty good time in the first 3 days, or the first 2 days even, of this 1-month race I've been in. Lots of stuff's been selling, having a really good time selling, lots of stuff that just wouldn't sell later on at all for multiple chaos. So, it's really, really good fun to really get into this trading, and if you haven't tried it out, I do highly recommend giving it a go, because it actually can be a lot of fun, when you put up your shop thread and 4 people contact you at once trying to buy different items, and the currency just comes rolling in. It feels so good. So, the main bulk of my trading is done through a program called Procurement, and then the shop threads on the forum. So, I have made a video on Procurement in the past, and this is this handy application just here. What it'll do is it'll scan your stash tabs for you, and then you'll be able to put prices on items, so you can price your own items essentially. So, for example, I've priced some skill gems here. Here are some random low-level things. There's some uniques that I'm selling currently, and I basically just update this once, twice, maybe 3 times a day. If I find a bunch of stuff, then I'll simply go into here and I'll refresh, and I'll start repricing. Now, I have done a much more detailed video on procurement and how to trade with this, but essentially the idea is this scans it, and you can eventually put out a code which you can copy and paste into a shop thread like this in the forums, where it'll list out all of your items. People browsing the forums can find this, but more importantly, people browsing sites like PoE, XYZ, IS will be able to search the 1-month race, search for the items they want to look for, and then find your items. And it happens really quickly. Usually whenever I post a procurement thread with some nice items in it, with buyouts listed, and pricing with buyouts is super important, then I'll get, I usually get a couple messages within 10-15 minutes of bumping my thread and, updating my procurement shop, essentially, my forum shop. So that's a really efficient way to trade, and it allows you to just keep farming. You just keep farming and leveling your character and playing and mapping and etc. while you're actually trading, essentially. So it almost becomes passive income. You just have to scoot back to town every now and then, and you just have to update your shop thread every now and then. However, in the new leagues, like right in the beginning, in the first couple days, I will venture into the hell that is trade chat. You guys can see some trade chat action here. And generally, I recommend, especially if you're a new trader, just to avoid trade chat completely for most of the game. It's very difficult to find things you want to buy in trade chat. It's very difficult to sell things in trade chat. It's very difficult to be heard over the noise. However, early in a league, it is quite easy to use trade chat to sell some highly sought after items, especially things like skill gems and some of the stuff I'll go over in a minute. Essentially what I'll do is I'll price things, I'll make sure I list it in a buyout. I'll just say want to sell, so I might go something like, I'll go into trade chat, I'll go want to sell, a chain gem. I will list these in my shop for something like 3 chaos, and I'll just say like 2.5 chaos on chain like that. And I'll just sell these things like fast casting, things like reduced mana, anything like that that drops early on that I know is something people really want really quickly for their brand new characters. Remember, everyone is leveling characters at once. Things like that will sell very quickly. I will use trade chat. As soon as I find it, what I'll actually do, I pick up a fast casting gem. It drops from a chest while I'm, clearing Chamber of Sins. I'll pick it up, I'll instantly open up trade chat, and I'll just go want to sell faster casting, you know, 2 chaos, and I'll just list that in trade chat 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll just do that a couple times, and usually straight away it gets a sale. I portal back, like it takes no time at all. So I will do that to get some of those quick sales very quickly. And the idea is to take advantage of the fact that these sorts of items that people really need a lot of in their builds but can't get enough of from quest rewards and stuff like that, leveling uniques, anything like that, that people want really early on, but are pretty common items. These will have very high value early on in the league, and it's a good idea just to sell them as quickly as possible. Really high value stuff you hold on to for later, but that stuff that's inflated at the beginning of a league because of that high demand is really good to sell through trade chat. So let's now transition over, and we'll take a look a bit about what sort of things you can sell and how to go about pricing them. Okay guys, so this is a spreadsheet I've been adding to my 7-day beginner's arc build project. It's kind of relevant information for a beginner starting up in a new league, which I think this build will be used in. So it's in there. I'll link this in the description below. You can find that just down there. It's on this trading tab. So this has just been some very rough information I've been recording based on trades I've done myself, or trades I've been seeing successfully complete, or trades I've just, like if I've seen high volume of things posted in trade chat. And that's generally the process by which you learn prices, by actually selling things, by attempting to selling things and not getting any sales, and by either asking people or keeping an eye on trade chat. Usually I'll have one of the slower trade chats open, something like trade chat 8, and I'll leave that open while I'm playing, keep one eye on it, and see what sort of gets posted. If I see people posting, want to buy reduced mana 2 chaos, and that gets posted quite a lot, then I think 2 chaos is a pretty decent price for reduced mana at that time. Now keep in mind that this is for the first few days to the first week within a league, and this stuff will change a lot, and it will change with changes to the metagame and all that jazz. This is why I've steered away from giving specific prices in videos in the past, because no doubt this stuff will be wrong now and in the future. It's impossible to get very good amounts, but hopefully this gives you guys some sort of insight into this whole process. So let's start off with skill and support gems. This is this section just here. These guys are the biggest seller in new leagues. Oh, it's so good. Finding skill gems and getting quest rewards that you don't need for your own character is really rewarding, and I always make the bulk of my income off of skill gems, support gems, and quality gems early on in the leagues, and I sell tons of this stuff. So the best thing to do is put buyouts on as many skill gems as possible, and the stuff that you know will sell quickly, hit it up in trade chat as soon as you find it. And I always make a ton of currency out of this in the first few days. Usually I end up with something like, you know, my first couple exalts will be mostly from skill gems, because everyone needs skill gems, and roughly speaking, people get about 75 to 80% of the skill gems they need if they're playing an on-class sort of build, like they're playing a spellcasting witch. Then they'll get 75 to 80% of the gems they need from quest rewards, but there's still that 20% they don't need. And then there are a subset of people playing things like EK Marauders that need heaps of skill gems. They need to buy them all, and they need to find them for other people. And then there's a lot of stuff like you need multiples of faster casting and reduced mana and blood magic and stuff like that. So that's what makes a huge demand for this stuff early on when everyone's leveling up their characters trying to create their builds. So let's go over some rough sort of points here, and I'll show you guys some examples. Obviously this is not a complete list, there's a lot more spell gems than this, skill gems than this. But stuff like Enduring Cry, Molten Shell, the different Purity Auras, Grace, and then General Curses, everything except Punishment is worth about 1 alch. All these guys go for an easy 1 alch. Now alch means 1 alch, 1 scour, 1 fusing, anything like that is fine. And sometimes you might even take something like 5 or 6 alterations for them. That's usually fine. Anything around that is fine for these sorts of things, and those will give you some nice snappy trades. The only exception to that rule is Temp Chains usually goes for about a chaos. It's a bit rare, and tends to go for a little bit more. Then we have some different support gems like Fire Penetration, increased burning damage, stuff like that usually goes for about 1 chaos. So that's a pretty good example there. We've got Clarity and Discipline, Clarity especially. It's a low level gem, pretty easy to get. You get it from Brutus, but nearly everyone wants Clarity. So that's an easy 1 chaos, and maybe even a little bit more than 1 chaos in the first like day or two of a new league. Sometimes you can get like 2 chaos for or something like that. Discipline's about the same. It's another aura that a lot of Eldritch Battery characters want, so it's a chaos, but it's a bit of a higher level one, so that's why it ends up costing a chaos. Almost any gen below 10% quality, so something like an 8% quality an 8% quality something fireball or something like that, those will usually go for a chaos in the first few days. Later on they'll be worth almost nothing and they'll just be used for GCP recipes, but almost any quality gem will go for about a chaos. There are obviously some exceptions because some quality on some gems is absolutely useless, but for the most part quality can add something like an extra alch or chaos to the value of an existing gem. So that's a good rule set to hold in mind. When you get into the higher qualities, it starts to differ a lot more and you kind of have to gauge a price by taking offers or keeping an eye on trade chat and seeing what's being posted there. So that's not included in this guide. Lesser multiple projectiles, things like that usually go for 1 chaos. Added chaos is another example that goes for 1 chaos. Reduced mana is a very easy one to sell. If you ever find reduced mana, that's an easy 2 to 3 chaos. 3 chaos early on, 2 chaos throughout the entirety of the first week, and then after that it usually settles down somewhere around 1 chaos and tends to stay there. Reduced mana is always something people need a lot of. Everyone needs reduced mana to run their auras. Then we have Spell Totem. That's another pretty popular one, 2 chaos. It usually goes for about 2 chaos. Blood Magic is super popular these days. Like, lots of people need to run Blood Magic, and it's pretty tricky to get. A lot of the people that want Blood Magic don't get it on their characters because Marauders and Templars gets Blood Magic, but Witches, Shadows, everyone wants Blood Magic, so that's usually an easy 2 to 3 chaos when you find one of those. Faster casting early on is 2 chaos, even with the introduction of the new Echo gem. Faster casting is still pretty high demand, and I see it regularly going for 2 chaos, so that's pretty good. Chain is one of the examples of the kind of the more expensive categories of gems, but it's on the cheaper end of that scale and usually goes for something like 3 chaos. That's tied in with an enhance just there. Then we start to get into the much more expensive category in gems. This includes things like Cast When Damage Taken, Multi-Strike, Empower, Spell Echo, Greater Multiple Projectiles. Those things there, they all go for somewhere between 3 to 6 or 7 chaos. However, there is a variation, and Spell Echo, because it's a new gem, has been super volatile. I've seen it go for 2 chaos, I've seen it go for 10 chaos. I got mine for 3.5 chaos, but generally the 3 to 6 chaos mark is the most expensive of base gems. And Empower might go for something like 5 chaos, Multi-Strike might go for 5 chaos. Sometimes Cast When Damage Taken goes for even more than 5 chaos in Hardcore League. But the idea is that it's very quick to sell these. They're very specific items, and it's quite easy to price them. Just keep an eye on the trade chat to, see if they're going for this. Try these values maybe, and see if you get any successful sales at these values. So next over, I want to go over this way just here to rares and blue items that sell, like low level ones. So I'm talking below level 60. I should be able to extend this out and show you guys below level 60 just there. But essentially, even in softcore, below level 60 stuff can sell pretty well in the first week or so of a new league. In hardcore, that time zone is actually extended out quite a bit because people will be dying and needing to re-level. So a lot of this stuff will continue to sell for many weeks in hardcore. But in softcore even, you can still sell these items pretty well. Generally, any piece of gear, so helmet, not so much chests. Chests usually need links, but it can work on chests early on in the lower levels. Chests, any armor type with life and then 1 or more resistance is usually 1 alch to 1 chaos for low level gear. It's an easy 1 alch to 1 chaos because people need that stuff to be able to progress past those gear hurdles. Then if you get into like life with tri resist or 2 high resist, you're looking in 2 to 3 chaos range. 3 chaos is like kind of the hard max for low level gear, so below level 50 gear. It's very hard to get rares or blues that are worth more than that for the lower levels. Gloves with attack speed, life, and resist are pretty valuable, and they can go for 3 chaos, sometimes even a little bit more, but usually 3 chaos, 2 to 3 chaos, something like that. Mana Leech on gloves is very, very valuable. So if you get Mana Leech on a pair of gloves that already have life and resist and attack speed, then it can add an extra 1 or 2 chaos to the base price of those. So even finding like a pair of level 30 gloves that have attack speed, life, and 2 resists and Mana Leech can be quite valuable because they're really nice leveling items for people. Boots with move speed, life, and resist are an easy 2 chaos. Leather belts with life plus a resist. Even blue, pick up those blue jewelry, guys, when you're leveling, because all you need for something to be valuable early on in the league is something like a leather belt that's got 35 life in the implicit, another 45 life on it, and then like a 30% fire resist. That's worth something. That's worth like 1 to 2 chaos. So that's pretty easy money in the bank. So I do pick up most good base blue jewelry early on because it can have good value. 2-end weapons with high fizz damage and attack speed can be an easy 1 chaos. 2-ended weapons with high fizz, flat fizz, and attack speed can be a little bit more than that. Though generally speaking, there's unique weapons that most people will go for, so they don't sell for too much more than that. 5-link chest armor is a bit harder to price. It's that tends to vary, but you're going to sell any sort of 5-links you find quite easily. Even bad 5-links are a couple chaos, so like really low-level 5-link chest armors are a couple chaos. However, 5-link weapons are very difficult to sell. Sometimes you'll even struggle to find buyers for like a 5-link two-handed sword or something like that, unless it has good stats as well. 4-link gloves or helmets are really good with just life and resist, and that's an easy couple chaos. If you get boots, they still need to have move speed to really be valuable, but a 4-link pair of boots with good life and a couple resist can still be quite valuable. And then, as I said, rings, belts, amulets with life and 1 resist, even low-level ones are 1 to 2 chaos. Once you start getting into the higher levels, like 40 plus, they can start to roll higher amounts of life, and once you start to get 60 plus, the prices go dramatically skewed. But early on, easy 1 to 2 chaos for rings or amulets with life and a resist on it. Pretty easy stuff, and this stuff does sell, guys. It sounds crazy, but I sell tons of this stuff. And then mana regeneration is another pretty valuable stat. So if you have a ring with life and a resist on it, and then it has mana regeneration %, and maybe a mana, a bit of mana on there as well, that adds a bit of extra chaos to the item because it's super useful for people. So these are things to keep an eye out for. It's pretty much just life and resist, move speed on boots, 4-links, 5-links, and some mana regeneration, mana leech, and life leech to a lesser extent. All of those things are pretty useful. Okay, and then I want to go down into here, into the build defining and leveling uniques. Now this is only a tiny list, but it's just supposed to be a very brief example that the idea of build defining uniques, so if you know a build and then it needs some sort of unique to be able to work, then those things will sell very easily for high amounts early on. So for example, Vol's Protector can sell for 3 to 5 chaos in the first couple days, even when it's a low level Vol's Protector. So can't even be like 6-linked. I don't know, I think they can be 5-linked. I can't remember the level of it, but anyway. And then there's stuff like, so that's like an example of a build enabling unique. Tabula Rasa goes for an Exalt. If you find one of those on the first beach, you've made hard cash monies. Slither Pinch and Worm's Molt are kind of they're kind of build enabling, but more like leveling uniques, and these go for a couple chaos each as well because they have that life and mana resist, life and mana leech. You should be sort of recognizing the value of those there. Things like Quill Rain, Karui Ward, Rigvald's Charge, Screaming Eagle, these are all leveling things, and these all sell quite well in the first few days. In softcore, you should try and sell these as soon as you find them. Any sort of like low level attack, high damage weapon or something else that's pretty helpful for leveling, so Karui Ward's pretty helpful for leveling. You sell those as quickly as possible in the first few days of softcore leagues, and the first couple weeks of hardcore, they'll be quite valuable. So the general idea is for these like low end, pretty common uniques. This is trying to break this down into just like one sort of rule, is like common build enabling uniques should be sold as quickly as possible because their value is inflated heavily at the beginning of a league, and leveling uniques should be sold as quickly as possible as well. Really high end stuff like Rise of the Phoenixes and stuff like that, or heavens forbid you find like a Voltaxic Rift or something like that, that sort of stuff is better left until later on. At this point, also throw in the little piece of advice that if you do find something like an Exalt or a Divine or an Eternal early on, that sort of thing is best held onto until, at least for a week. Don't try and sell those in the first week because you will lose a lot of value on those because people don't have a lot of chaoses to trade for those sorts of currencies. So I was a bit hesitant to do this video because it is very specific in a lot of regards, and trading is quite difficult in Path of Exile to get into, but it is extremely rewarding, and hopefully this is something that's been able to help you guys. If you do have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll be happy to sort of discuss these concepts with you guys, and hopefully if you have some nice questions, I'll be able to make some more videos further explaining some of these ideas and how to get a bit more into trading. Because it is a lot of fun, guys. It is a lot of fun. You just kind of have to do it a bit to get sort of in there. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.